Hello there. So today we're going to talk about cameras within Maya. We're not going to go through too many of them in depth, but just the basics so you kind of understand what they are and how you use them. So as of right now, I just have this demo scene right here that I'm going to be using for the next few lessons. It's just a couple of cubes on a plane, nothing too fancy with them. They're just kind of there stacked around. Something interesting. So before we get into actual cameras, let's start with the cameras that you already start with. So within Maya, you have 4 cameras to begin with: your perspective, top, front, and side view. These are the cameras set to your viewports, so if I hit space on my keyboard, they'll split into 4 different views like this. You never really want to mess with those. Some people render through their perspective view or in one of those views, but when you're getting really in depth with your animation, you're not going to want to really change those at all. And because of that, that's why we get into new cameras. So to create a camera, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to Create, Cameras, and we have a bunch of different tools we could use right here. So we have camera, camera and up, a couple of stereo ones, and a multi-stereo one. So for the basics, we're not going to really go into stereo cameras at all. They really have their own types of animation and rendering set for them that we're not going to really need in this. So we're going to focus on camera, camera and up. So let's start for the camera. So let me create a new camera, bring it on up right here. So this is a camera, just a standard camera. It works pretty much the exact same way as the ones that are set to your viewports. And in a lot of cases, it'll get the job done. You basically just use it as if you were using any other type of camera. And let's just say if I want to rotate it, focus it on my cubes right there, that looks pretty good. I'll just go in and let's just render these cubes. So if you see right here, I rendered the cubes, but it's actually still working with my perspective camera. So what I need to do is I need to go to render right here, and then camera 1. That'll re-render it to the camera I'm working with, which works really well. We could also go to setting it up in our render settings by changing the renderable cameras to the camera we want to render. That way, if I render it, it'll render that camera again. So that works out really well. But before we dive into the other cameras, let's just kind of get a couple of different techniques with this. So let's just say you want to see what you're actually going to be focusing your project on. And normally if you're looking at it through perspective view, you're already doing that in that camera. But we want to switch to our main camera, our new one. So what we need to do is we have to go to Panels and then look through Selected. You could also get to it through Perspective and then Camera 1. And what that will do is it will actually put you in the viewport of the camera you're looking at. So if I move this around and like rotate it and things like that, so let's just say I want to get a shot like that, really interesting, and I go back to my perspective camera, you can now see that this camera has been moved and rotated and everything to where I'm going to be rendering out that photo. So it's very useful to do it that way, and that's the way I usually recommend doing it, because you're aiming your shots. You're not really kind of moving in and then trying to render it out to see what it is. You're seeing what's right in front of you. So let me just go back to that camera. And another thing we could do is we could turn on our film gates. So what a film gate is, so if I click it right here, it's a little icon, it'll put this light gray area around my shot, and anything that's within this box right here is what's going to be rendered. Anything outside of it is not going to be rendered. So if I went in and let's just say I changed this to, let's just say a 1K square, hit close, and I reopen that film gate and actually put the gate mask on there too. Oh. Yeah, my resolution gate. So you'll see exactly what's there. So film gate will show you what your rendered shot would be, and the resolution gate will be the actual shot within there. So if I go in, let's just say I change this to 1080, it will switch to there. So usually you could use your film gate or your resolution gate. Your resolution gate will be a little more accurate with what's actually being rendered. So that one's right there. It's a little rectangle with a circle in it. And to turn it off, you just click it on it again. So super useful. We also have a gate mask, which basically will turn that gray pattern off, but you still have that white outline, just in case you need to see what's behind there a little better. I usually leave it on just to get a really good idea. So now that we have all that type of techniques set up, let's go into different cameras. So I'm going to go back to my perspective view. I'm going to leave that camera right there for now, and I'm just going to create a new one. So the next camera I'm going to make is I'm going to go create cameras, camera and aim. So this one's a very interesting camera. If I bring it up like this, what it has is it works exactly the same as the other camera, but we also have this little node right here. Oops. So what this little node does is wherever I have this spot, the camera is going to follow it, which is super cool and useful. So let's just say, for example, I have a shot at frame 1 and the camera's focusing right here. If I key that, and let's just say at frame, I don't know, let's go with 120. I bring this over here and key it again. If I look and play it through, you'll see that camera follow that little sphere, which is awesome. So let's actually take a look at it through the camera. So camera 2, I think, yeah, I don't really have it focused on anything. So what I'm doing is I'm just moving the camera down like that. So the camera's kind of like higher up in the air now. Let me just show that. So now my camera's high up in the air, just so it's easier to see this. So go in, hit play, and let's just start from the beginning. Look at it go. Super great for getting those shots where you're moving the camera around and just kind of working with it. So that's the camera and aim camera. So super useful. The next one and the last one I'm going to be doing is the camera aim and up. So this one is very similar to the camera and aim, but it just adds a little bit of extra node right there to it. So there's not going to be a lot of situations where you're going to actually be doing this, but we have the aiming node, which we just went over with the first camera, well, the second camera. So that'll move it like that. But we also have this one right here. And what this does is basically if I go and bring it lower than the camera, it flips it upside down. So if you ever need to have your camera go upside down for whatever reason, you would use this type of camera. I don't use it too often though. So let's just get rid of those. Get rid of all these cameras. All right. So along with that, we could do a lot of different really interesting things with these cameras by working with the shots and the movement of them and anything like that. Cameras are also keyable, so if I ever need to, I could just key my camera, or let me just move it over here, key it, and it works exactly the same way as any other model would. So that's pretty much the basics of cameras. And then next lesson we're going to be talking about rendering. So look forward to that. See ya.